Dear Mama, I'm sorry it took your death for me to understand you. I thought you hated me. I thought you were cold and unkind. But you were just hurting, just trying to survive. I wish I could hug you now. I wish I could tell you I love you too. Linda was sitting in her one-room apartment in Surulere, scrolling through job listings and sipping Gary when her phone rang. She glanced at the screen. It was her uncle, Papa Ebuka. She hadn't spoken to anyone from the village in nearly 3 years. She picked up reluctantly. Hello? A pause. Then his voice came, quiet but heavy. Linda, your mother is gone. The words didn't make sense at first. Gone where? She asked. She passed this morning, in her sleep. Linda's heart dropped, not because of love, but confusion. She hadn't seen her mother since the fight 3 years ago. The fight that ended everything. Her hands trembled. Tears didn't come. Not yet. Will you come for the burial? Her uncle asked gently. Linda didn't answer. Her chest felt tight, her mind a mess of guilt, anger, and confusion. The woman who made her childhood hard was now gone. She looked out the window. The sky was grey, and for the first time in years, she felt completely alone. Linda sat on the edge of her bed for hours, staring at nothing. Her mind was filled with pains of the past. Her mother shouting at her, comparing her to others, always reminding her she wasn't enough. She remembered the last words she said to her. I wish you weren't my mother. That day, she had walked out of their home in Suka, determined never to look back. She didn't attend her mother's birthday, didn't call during Christmas, didn't even check when someone said Mama had been sick. Now Mama was gone. Linda packed a small bag and booked a night bus to the east. The journey felt like a punishment. Her chest ached with a guilt she didn't understand. Why was she crying now, after years of hatred? When the bus passed the Welcome to Enugu sign, her stomach twisted. She was returning not as a daughter, but as a stranger to the woman who gave her life. The house looked smaller now, dusty, quiet, and filled with shadows. Linda stood at the gate for a long time before pushing it open. Some relatives were already there, sitting on plastic chairs under the mango tree. They stared at her with mixed looks. Pity, judgment, curiosity. Inside the house, her uncle, Papa Ebuka, embraced her gently. She always asked after you, he whispered. Linda said nothing. The living room still smelled like camphor and herbs. Her mother's wrapper hung on the nail beside the bedroom door. On the wall, the old family photo, Mama holding Linda as a baby, looked down at her like a ghost. Everything felt heavy. Every item reminded her of a past she tried to erase. That night, Linda couldn't sleep. She sat in her mother's old bedroom, staring at the ceiling fan, spinning slowly, making a clicking sound. A part of her was still angry, but another part was breaking inside. Why did this house feel like it was waiting to speak? The next morning, after the guests had gone, Linda began sorting through her mother's things. It was part of tradition, cleaning the house before burial. She folded old wrappers, sorted containers, and wiped the wooden dressing table. Then, under the bed, her fingers touched something hard. A small wooden box. She pulled it out, covered in dust and tied with faded red ribbon. Her heart skipped. Something told her this wasn't ordinary. She opened it slowly. Inside, on top of old photos and prayer books, was a sealed envelope. To my daughter Linda, if I don't wake up one day. Her fingers trembled. She sat on the bed, staring at the envelope. Her throat tightened. She didn't open it right away. Part of her was afraid. What could her mother possibly say? Was it a curse? A confession? She held it to her chest and cried. For the first time since she got the news. She didn't know that one letter would change everything. That night, Linda locked the door and sat alone. The moonlight through the window lit the room just enough to read. Her hands shook as she tore open the envelope. The handwriting was familiar. Mama's strong, slanted letters. My daughter Linda, if you're reading this, it means God has called me home. I'm sorry. Linda's lips trembled. I know you hated me, I know I failed you in many ways, but before you throw this letter away, please hear me. Tears rolled down her face. I wasn't always this hard. Life made me that way. I was only 19 when I had you. Your father died so early, and I didn't know how to raise a child alone. I lost jobs, begged for food, and sometimes starved just to feed you. But I didn't know how to show love. I thought being tough would protect you. Linda couldn't breathe. The paper shook in her hand. Every time I scolded you, it was fear, not hate. I'm sorry I didn't say I love you enough. I always did, I still do. Linda dropped the letter, held her face, and sobbed into the night. Linda sat on the bed, the letter now damp from her tears. It felt like her mother was sitting beside her, speaking those words gently, softly, a voice she never heard in real life. She continued reading. Do you remember the night you came home crying because your classmates mocked your old shoes? That night, I sold my necklace, the only gift your father ever gave me, just to buy you new ones the next day. But I didn't say it. I just gave them to you and told you not to cry again. Linda remembered that day. She had hated the shoes at the time, thinking her mother didn't care. But now it made sense. So many things made sense. Everything I owned I gave to you. But I didn't know how to give you my heart. I was scared because I was never taught how to love properly. Linda folded the letter and wept into her pillow. The woman she thought was heartless had loved her all along, in silence. The next morning, Linda didn't talk to anyone. She moved through the compound like a shadow, her face swollen from crying all night. Her relatives assumed she was mourning, but her pain ran deeper. She wasn't just mourning her mother's death. She was mourning the years they lost, the birthdays she ignored, the missed calls she never returned, the hugs she never gave. She walked past her mother's room and paused. The scent of shea butter and menthol balm still lingered. She stepped in quietly. On the table beside the bed was an old Bible. She opened it and saw a paper folded inside her childhood drawing, with the words, I love you, Mama, written in shaky handwriting. It was dated 2005. Her mother had kept it for 20 years. Linda sat on the bed and broke down again. She wanted to scream, to beg for one more day, one more hug, one more chance to say, I'm sorry. But death doesn't return missed calls. The sun rose slowly, casting a golden light over the village. Women arrived early, singing soft hymns, carrying chairs and coolers. The pastor from Mama's church had come. Neighbors filled the compound. Linda dressed in a black lace wrapper and head tie, her face blank, heart aching. As the coffin was brought out, she froze. It felt like a bad dream. She walked slowly behind the others, hands clenched tightly, trying not to collapse. When the pastor asked if anyone had words to say, Papa Ebuka nudged her gently. Linda shook her head. She couldn't speak. But as the coffin was lowered into the ground, something inside her cracked. She screamed a sound so raw, so painful, everyone went silent. Mama! I'm sorry! Please forgive me. She knelt beside the grave, shaking, weeping, unable to breathe. Some women rushed to hold her, others cried too. It was no longer just a burial. It was a goodbye too late. After the burial, Linda stayed behind for a few days. She didn't feel ready to return to Lagos. The house was quiet, and she spent most of her time cleaning, reading the letter over and over again. Some of the older women in the village came by. They shared stories she never heard before. Your mother used to cook for widows every Sunday, one woman said. She paid my son's school fees in secret, another added. Linda was shocked. But she never told anyone. She didn't need to. Your mother wasn't loud, but she was good. The more Linda listened, the more her heart broke. She had judged her mother based on what she didn't see, not what was hidden. That night, she walked into her mother's old room again, held the letter close and whispered, Mama, you were a good woman. I just didn't know. And for the first time in days, her tears were mixed with pride. One evening, as the sky turned orange, Linda sat under the mango tree with a small journal in her lap. She began writing, Dear Mama, I'm sorry it took your death for me to understand you. I thought you hated me. I thought you were cold and unkind. But you were just hurting, just trying to survive. I wish I could hug you now. I wish I could tell you I love you too. She closed the book and sighed. Her heart still ached, but it no longer felt empty. The next day, she walked to the village school and asked to speak to the headmistress. I want to donate some books, she said, in memory of my mother. The woman smiled and nodded. She would be proud. Linda didn't reply. She only looked up at the sky, hoping her mother was watching. Healing doesn't come in one night. But for Linda, it had begun one tear, one truth, one act of love at a time. 2 days before Linda planned to leave the village, she paid a visit to Mama Chinyere, the local midwife and one of her mother's oldest friends. The old woman welcomed her with a weak smile. Ah, Linda, you look so much like your mother, especially when you're quiet, she said, pouring Linda a cup of zobo. They sat on a wooden bench under the mango tree, watching goats wander across the compound. Mama never talked much, Linda began, her voice low. Did she ever tell you why she was so hard on me? Mama Chinyere sighed. Your mother carried too much on her heart. After your father died, people mocked her. They called her a curse, said she was unlucky. She used her silence to protect herself, and she used her strength to protect you. Linda wiped a tear quickly. She once told me, if Linda hates me but becomes strong, I can live with that. But if I spoil her with love and she fails, I will never forgive myself. Those words cut deep. For the first time, Linda saw her mother's pain not as cruelty, but as sacrifice. Back at the house, Linda decided to clear out the last cupboard in her mother's room. As she moved old wrappers and empty containers, a small photo album fell out from behind a stack. She opened it slowly. Inside were photos she had never seen her mother in her younger years, smiling in a nurse's uniform. Her father beside her, tall and gentle-eyed. Then, photos of baby Linda, swaddled, sleeping, laughing. But one photo made Linda freeze. It was a picture of her as a teenager, holding a certificate. Her face was frowning, eyes red, hair uncombed. She remembered that day. Clearly, it was the day Mama shouted at her for coming home late from school. Yet, her mother kept the photo. On the back was a short note in faded ink. My stubborn daughter, still my biggest pride. Linda sat on the floor and hugged the album. She thought her mother never noticed her victories. But the truth was, Mama noticed everything, she just never said it aloud. Later that night, Linda couldn't sleep. She sat in the parlor, flipping through the old album again. A loose paper slipped out a child's drawing. Crayon on white paper. A stick-figure child holding hands with a tall woman wearing a wrapper. Above it were the words, me and my mommy. Linda laughed quietly through her tears. She had forgotten she even drew that, but her mother hadn't. She kept it through poverty, pain, and time. The letter, the photo, the drawing, each piece was like a puzzle, forming a picture of a woman who loved in silence. Linda stared at the drawing long into the night. I wish I had known. I would have loved you better, she whispered. But Mama was gone, and all she had now were memories and regrets. Still, in that moment, she felt something shift. She wasn't just mourning her mother anymore. She was learning who she really was. The morning she packed to leave, Linda added something new to her bag. Her mother's letter. She also wrote a letter of her own, folded it, and placed it inside the wooden box under the bed. To my future child. In case I ever fail to say it out loud, please know, I love you. I'm proud of you. Even when I'm silent, I see you. She locked the room gently, wiping away a tear. As she boarded the bus back to Lagos, she looked out the window at the house, that quiet, broken house that raised her, scarred her, and healed her. She no longer hated her mother. She missed her, and she forgave her. And, most importantly, she forgave herself too. Back in Lagos, everything looked the same. The traffic, the noise, the dust. But Linda felt different. She walked into her small apartment, dropped her bag, and sat quietly. The silence no longer felt lonely. It felt like peace. On her wall, she pinned a photo of her mother in a nurse's uniform. Beside it, she placed the drawing she found, the stick figure child, holding her mother's hand. She looked at both pictures, smiled softly, and whispered, "Thank you, Mama." Then she picked up her phone and called her younger cousin in Nsukka. "Are you okay?" the girl asked. Linda nodded. "I will be." Because healing doesn't mean forgetting the pain. It means learning from it and choosing to love anyway. That night, Linda had a dream. She was standing in a wide grassy field under a cloudy sky. From the mist, her mother appeared wearing a white wrapper, barefoot, her face soft and peaceful. "Mama," Linda whispered, frozen in place. Her mother walked slowly toward her. "You don't need to carry guilt, my daughter," she said, her voice like wind. "I was never angry with you. I understood your pain, even when you didn't understand mine." Tears poured down Linda's face. "I was just afraid," Linda said. "I thought you didn't love me." Her mother smiled gently. "I didn't always show it the right way, but every meal I cooked, every cloth I mended, every sacrifice I made, it was all love." Then she added softly, "Live well, forgive yourself, and when you have children, love them loudly." Before Linda could say another word, the field faded. She woke up in tears, holding her pillow tightly. That dream felt real, like a final goodbye. Linda sat at her table the next morning and wrote 3 letters. One to her mother, one to herself, and one to the child she hoped to have someday. To her mother, "Thank you for giving everything when you had nothing. I see you now. I understand." To herself, "You were just a girl trying to be strong. It's okay to cry. It's okay to forgive." To her future child, "I will not wait till it's too late to say I love you." She folded the letters and placed them inside a new journal. One she would keep close. Writing those words was healing. Pain doesn't disappear, but it can become a bridge between what was broken and what can be made whole. Linda realized that her mother never got to hear the words she needed most, but maybe someone else still could. Maybe her story would help others speak before it's too late. A week later, as Linda waited for a bus to walk, she saw a young girl crying quietly on the bench beside her. She looked no older than 15. Linda gently asked, "What's wrong?" The girl sniffled. "My mom slapped me because I said I didn't want to go to school. She's always shouting. She never listens." Linda felt something tighten in her chest. She reached into her bag and pulled out her journal. She tore out a clean page and wrote something quickly. She folded it and handed it to the girl. "Read this later, okay? Just know that mothers love differently, and sometimes silence is not hate, it's fear." The girl nodded slowly. As the bus pulled in, Linda looked out the window at the girl, who was now reading the letter. The girl smiled faintly. Linda's heart warmed. Maybe she couldn't go back in time, but she could help someone else's future. Months passed. Linda grew softer, gentler, wiser. She volunteered on weekends at a youth center, helping young girls with their studies. One evening, a little girl tugged her sleeve and said, "Auntie Linda, you remind me of my mommy." Linda smiled. "Why?" "Because when you talk, it makes my heart feel warm." Those words brought tears to Linda's eyes. Later that night, as she walked home, she looked up at the sky. The stars were bright and the air smelled like rain. She whispered, "Mama, your pain didn't go in vain. I'm loving others the way you couldn't, but wanted to." She had turned her wounds into wisdom, her regrets into redemption, and she knew her mother would be proud. On the anniversary of her mother's death, Linda returned to Nsukka. She brought flowers and the photo album. She knelt at her mother's grave, the grass now grown and soft. "Mama," she said, her voice shaking, "thank you for everything. I forgive you, I love you, and I'm learning to forgive myself too." She placed the flowers gently on the grave, then opened the photo album and smiled. A light breeze passed through the trees, brushing against her cheeks like a kiss. She stood up taller, walked back toward the house, and looked behind her one last time. She didn't carry hate anymore. She carried love, growth, and truth. Because the real letter wasn't just the one her mother left, it was the one Linda was writing with her life. Sometimes the love our parents give doesn't look soft. It looks like discipline, silence, or strictness. We may grow up feeling unloved, judged, or even hurt by their actions. But behind those cold words or stern faces, many parents carry silent battles, poverty, pain, shame, and deep fears of failing us. This story teaches us that parents are not perfect, they are human too. They may have loved the only way they knew how, even if it didn't feel like love at the time. Holding on to anger only delays healing. Sometimes, by the time we understand their actions, it may be too late to say, I forgive you. Forgiveness is not weakness, it's freedom. When we forgive, we don't erase the past, but we break free from bitterness and open the path to peace. Give grace to those who raised you. What you think was hate may have been sacrifice in disguise. Before it's too late, talk, ask questions, say thank you, even if it hurts. Because some truths are only revealed after silence, and some love is only understood when it's gone. If you're still watching, drop I love you mama in the comments. Don't be shy, I'm watching you. I love reading your sweet comments. Bye.